Okay, do I got some grundle in my trundle? Because this is the Earthshaker review and guide. Hello, I am the many-talented Mr. Jefferson, and something weird happened while I was taking a break while editing my recent Bonsai Run review and guide, much like the same thing that happened when I was editing my Black Knight 2000 guide. As per usual, I relaxed from editing a script talking about pinball and matching it up with background footage by scrubbing through hours of pinball footage by playing a couple of games of pinball. Look, I recently made a video talking about 100 games you should probably wishlist, and 99 of those games I played this year. And Pinball FX still managed to net 22% of my playtime, and 2 of the 3 games were idle games. You literally never turn those games off. What I'm saying is that I might have a problem, but my addiction is to your benefit, because something odd happens when I play pinball past the witching hour, and a vast majority of my wizard mode videos were literally captured at 3 a.m., which is around the time I usually wind up finishing my writing or editing, and currently it is 2:38 a.m. as I write these words, and I'm about to stop working and play a couple more games of Earthshaker before I go to bed, just because. I already have all of the footage I need. I might play something else and film that just to see what happens, and son of a bitch, this is just how good I was shooting on this table, which I have not been practicing at all. And I believe that's due to the high difficulty of the Williams Pack 8 tables, which have really sharpened my skills. I mean, look at this hippie loop. Just look at it. I mean, look at it.
Flying machine?
Like, wow, man. And that's the next review and guide I need to finish writing, so I'm pretty jazzed about getting back to work on the Williams Pack 1 collection. However, Earthshaker was the first table revealed in the Williams Pack 8. And the last table I've gotten around to reviewing in that pack, and there's a very good reason for that. Black Knight 2000 was tied to an epic personal 35 years in the making revenge story that ended with me getting the Diamond Ranked Statue Award for finally beating that bastard. Bonsai Run is another matter entirely. It managed to piss me off in a way that few games have. I found it so frustrating that I couldn't help but obsess over it in the back of my head until I found the key to solving the puzzle, and just like that, I became king of the hill. Earthshaker, on the other hand, was in a very weird spot for me. The table looked cool and it has an interesting layout, but it felt like a very by-the-numbers table, and with Earthshaker, that's very literal because it's a chase the lights style table with each light representing a specific zone on the building. Lighting all 9 zones will allow the second ball lock, and the method of lighting the zones grows in complexity the more often you do it, with the game allowing you a variety of shots on the first attempt, and then the second time around offering only 2 shots at a time, and then on the third go around you only get 1 target at a time. I don't usually find this kind of rule set to be particularly exciting, so I started looking around the table for more interesting shots. I love to find weird backhand shots and repeatable loops or interesting shortcuts, and I really didn't see too many of those on Earthshaker, but then I noticed that there are some actually really cool shortcuts in the game's rule set, and they involve a repeatable loop followed by a trick shot, and that loop can be shot from either flipper. And combine that with the fact that this is just a big, dumb, noisy machine, and I really started to have a lot of fun with the table. There is a lot of hidden complexity to this table, and it very nicely rounds out this particular 3-pack because all 3 of the tables have a very different rhythm to them and require different playstyles. Black Knight 2000 is a hard-rocking, fast-paced table with amazing flow. Banzai Run is basically the opposite of that, the anti-flow table. It's all about control and experience. And Earthshaker is a crazy road trip with lots of twists and turns, and it's kind of amazing. Oh my god, in trying to describe Earthshaker, I finally understand why the center of Banzai Run is so dangerous. Because you don't race around the center of a track, duh! You race around the actual track, which fits that theme's logic absolutely to a T, and Earthshaker also makes perfect sense because you're playing as a driver trying to escape from LA before Snake Plissken ever set foot there. Wait, is this actually a prequel to that movie? Escape from LA featured a broken off state of California serving as a prison colony. And that's my headcanon now. This is what happened before Escape from LA. You're listening to the radio to try to figure out where the next earthquake is going to come from while you're dodging traffic and accidents and weaving around the collapsing buildings, which gets harder and harder to do the more earthquakes you experience. So at first, you do have access to all those shots and routes that you need. Then you only have access to about half of them, because there's imaginary debris all over the place. And once you light those, you gain access to more lights, and then after the second earthquake, you have to relight the triggers one at a time. But that's not the only way to start an earthquake, because there is a bypass that works in conjunction with the shelter and the captive ball target to make it easier to start an earthquake the better that you are playing. And it gives you some very interesting options for progressing the table even further, because there are ways to skip hitting triggers or even bypass the ball locks completely. And you can go straight for 1,000,000 points in the quick multi-ball and then go right back into another multi-ball and then earn another quick multi-ball in a random award. And that's the difference between knowing the table and just playing the table, and that fits the theme of Earthshaker perfectly, because you're trying to outrun a natural disaster. So who do you think is going to know the back roads? Some fucking tourist or a local who's been around the block a few times? And it's this intelligent shot selection that makes a huge difference between when I started writing this video yesterday and where I am right now. Because yesterday, I cracked the top 100 by placing 73rd. And that convinced me I might just know enough to explain the table, but somewhere about 2 sentences back, I wound up taking a break to refresh my memory on the table with a fast game of Earthshaker, and that game resulted in tripling my high score and hitting 23rd on the leaderboards. And I wasn't planning on bringing up Crow Continuum in this video, but there he is anyway on my screen. I placed just below him. So I'm going to wind up doing something interesting at the end of this video, because I'm going to run both my second best game and my best game back to back. I didn't turn on my camera on my high score game until I was close to beating my previous high score, so I'm going to play out that first game in the background here and then move on to the second game after showing you some clips of the very first time I encountered this table. Because the footage that's missing is roughly the length of that first game I played, and you're watching that game in the background right now. It should be about the length of the script, and then I can pick up where I started filming my personal best game, but after I show you some clips of the first time I encountered this table, because wow. But before we get to that part of the video, I will answer the question, how did you do it? And to do that, we need to look at the table. Okay, this is a really nice looking table with some great use of primary colors. We've got plenty of blue striped with a bunch of red and a nice yellow arrow and some bright green grass and a couple of gray roads. And before you start scratching your head at my admiration of some very basic primary colors. This is a very complex table layout, and the use of these bright, bold colors keeps this maze of lanes and ramps from being confusing. And there are a whole lot of lights on this table to keep track of, but for the most part, they indicate what your current targets should be. But there are also two very interesting rows of lights between the red lines that will help you to score big. As stated, this is a pretty complex layout, so I'm going to start in a very odd spot. And that's because it's the center of the table. Not the actual physical center of the table, but it is one of the three most important shots on the table. And that's because it sets you up for a shot on the most important shot on the table, because it will release the ball right where that big yellow arrow is pointing for a nice controlled roll down to the upper flipper, where you can send it down the road, which is drawn in a very useful way because the bottom of the road, or what would be the right lane, would lead you to the first most important shot on the table and the first way to skip shots. This is the fault line ramp, and it will award you 3 miles. It will also award you the lowest uncompleted zone, which are numbered 1 through 9. And when the ball lock is available, it will redirect the ball into the shelter, which is very important to know because it's time to talk about the second most important shot on the table, and then follow that with the fourth most important shot on the table because they are very interconnected. This middle ball lock ejector thingy is also known as Zone 5, which you can read on the light below it when it is lit up, but knowing the zone numbers isn't really that important. The fault trip ramp isn't a zone, it's just the fault trip ramp, but it is super important. The fault trip ramp itself is not a zone. Okay, so that line of numbers forming an arrow labeled ramp miles isn't really that important, but filling it up is, for a whole bunch of reasons, which is only part of the reason the second most important shot on the table is the center ramp loop, which is not a combo shot, but it's only not a combo shot because it requires a specific trigger to collect the combo points. And there are two very important combinations involving this loop, which again aren't actual combo shots in the same way that the Black Knight 2000 Sky Loop is a combo shot, because the center ramp on Earthshaker will not automatically award the bonus points for each repeated loop. But what it does do is award 1 mile for the first loop and 2 miles for a hurry up loop, which you can keep going for as long as you can hit the ramp. Unsurprisingly, the numbers under ramp miles are a crude calculation of your current miles. You don't have to know how to read it. Just know that filling it up is important and that more is good. Those ramp loops will also stack another kind of hurry up on the other set of lights trailing down below the captured ball target. Completing the center loop will advance the bonus value up to 250,000, which is the orange circle light, so this captive ball target starts off at 25,000 and will max out after 4 fast shots around the center loop, and that orange light isn't just there to tell you that the reward is at maximum value. It's a different color because it's very important, because hitting that 250,000 point reward will also light the quick multi-ball at the center ball capture. And the quick multi-ball is kind of better than regular multi-ball because it's quick. Not only can you skip lighting every zone with 4 quick loops followed by hitting the captive ball, but quick multi-ball comes with 2 really nice bonuses. The first is that the million shot up the fault ramp starts out lit, unlike regular multi-ball, but the bigger bonus is that the ball that is currently trapped in Zone 5 is going to eject into a nice, gentle roll down the upper flipper to line you up for that million shot. Quick multi-ball is a 2-ball multi-ball, and once the million shot is collected, it cannot be relit, so you might as well drain that other ball and start shooting the loop again, and then the captive ball again, and restart it, because that will relight the million point shot. If the bonus isn't maxed out, the captive ball will also give a nice bonus besides points. It will also light up the lowest zone available, allowing you to skip shots on your way to starting Earthshaker, the main multi-ball mode. This captive ball lock also has another, but wait, there's more hidden trait, because every time you visit the shelter, the point value will advance permanently until you finally collect the 250,000 point award or you drain. So anytime you lock a ball, it will advance this set of lights without any timer. So you don't have to shoot the loop nearly as many times to advance to the max award to get the quick multi-ball. This is an insanely powerful shot if you can master it. I had a sneaking suspicion that the captured ball target was a really big deal on this table, and that's because I now have enough experience playing pinball that when I see a clearly tacked on sign that is not integrated into the artwork, poorly explaining the mechanics of how something works, it's probably because that thing is like super important. You know, like the Greed bookcase on Addams Family or the Power mini playfield on Twilight Zone. And the sign clearly states to shoot the ramp to advance prizes, shoot the $250,000 shot for a 2-ball lock, which is actually their way of saying it is a 2-ball multi-ball, because the Earthshaker multi-ball is a 3-ball multi-ball. One other really important shot to mention is Zone 1, the blue target right next to the middle ball capture. Don't ever aim for this with the right flipper, like ever. Every table has a sucker shot, and this one will return the ball straight down the center from the right flipper almost without fail. So don't even think about it. You also want to shoot a little high on the center ball lock because shooting too low can rocket the ball straight down the drain. But it's also possible to clip the top of Zone 1 and rebound it into the lock safely. But I really wouldn't risk that because this target is designed to screw you over. And that's a good opportunity to talk about ball handling because this centerpiece is actually really useful for exchanging flippers. Let's say you are over on the left flipper and you want to exchange it to the right. The Zone 1 target and ball lock are generally a safe shot from the left flipper. And yes, you can hit the ball lock, which will then release the ball down the upper flipper, where it will rebound off the top of the left slingshot and bounce gently over to the right flipper for an easy capture and cradle. From the right flipper, you can shoot the ball at the ball lock again, and this time, extend the upper flipper and let the ball roll down and dead flip off of the right flipper, this time for an easy capture and cradle on the left flipper.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
To repeat, shooting low at the center targets from the left flipper is generally safe if you miss your shot, and shooting high on the center targets is generally safe from the right flipper if you miss your shot, and you will often still manage to exchange flippers even if you hit a post as long as you follow these very basic guidelines. Zone 2 and 3 are above the captured ball and are safe enough targets that I don't really need to discuss them any further. Zone 4 is next to the center loop ramp and can rebound badly off of a left flipper shot, and it is fairly safe off of the right flipper. Zone 5 is, of course, the center ball lock, which we have heavily discussed already. Zone 6 is over back next to Zone 4. It's another loop that will come back around to the bumpers, which is also known as the loop you accidentally hit when you're actually shooting at the fault line ramp. And if you aim along the top of the road leading from the upper flipper, you will usually hit this loop if you're trying to do it on purpose. And sometimes you will get a lucky bounce into the shelter ball scoop if you shoot along the top of this line. Shooting along the bottom of the road, as I said, will usually land you in the fault line ramp, which there's no good reason not to shoot at this every time you can. Zone 7 is way back down at the right in lane, and Zone 8 is the left in lane, with the final zone being that captured ball, which is Zone 9. There are 3 drop-down targets just below the Earthshaker Institute building, and those 3 targets are the billboard, which will raise the jackpot value of Earthshaker, and the billboard will rise in value when you complete it up to a maximum of 100,000 points per completion. And I wasn't even sure where the billboard was until I looked it up just now. I have never intentionally shot at this, but it is potentially a very valuable target to hit on accident. There are tricks to getting the Zone 7 and Zone 8 in-lane rollovers safely lit, and by tricks I mean knowing which ramps connect to which habit trails. So if you need to hit the left inner rollover, you need to shoot the middle ramp, and it will return the ball to the in-lane. If you want to land on the right in-lane rollover, you need to shoot the shelter scoop, which will also give a matchup random award before sending the ball popping back up that habit trail just above the in-lane. And the shelter is also where you collect extra balls, and it's also where you restart multi-ball, so of course, it's a bitch of a narrow shot to make. Once you have completed enough zones, the first ball lock will open at either the shelter or the fault line ramp. When you have finished the rest of the zones, the second ball lock will open at the fault line only. The final shot of both ball locks can be skipped by shooting the fault line ramp early, because it will award one zone, which will complete the requirement for the ball lock, and it will open the redirect, which means instead of 9 zones, you really only need to complete 7. And anytime you hit the fault line ramp or the captured ball, you will skip a zone, and this opens up the table for some really intelligent play, because you are constantly making choices and changing your route to take alternate paths to the same destination, which is the Earthshaker multi-ball. The billboard jackpot I mentioned, that's attached to this 3-ball multi-ball, which is a 2-step process. The first step is to light the jackpot by hitting the second most important shot on the table, that center ramp loop, and then you need to hit the most important shot on the table to claim the jackpot. And it's a really easy setup for that shot using the third most important shot on the table, zone number 5, the center ball lock. If you lose 2 of the balls, you have a timer to reach the shelter scoop, which will start Aftershock, which is a 2-ball continuation of the Earthshaker multi-ball with the same rule set. Okay, what else is there to discuss on the table? There is a spinner that will give you points, or it will give you more points, but it won't do very much else. It's just a nice little bonus for when you shoot the loop instead of the fault line, because why wouldn't you shoot at the fault line instead, like literally every time? The fault line will light that loop if that is your target, and it will give you miles, and if it's the last shot of a sequence, it'll lock the ball, and if it's not, it'll drop the ball into the bumpers where you can hit the billboard to increase your jackpot, and it will spin the spinner, and it might even set up for another fault line shot if you're lucky. There is another sucker shot on the table, this little target with the red lights above it. I don't really know what this thing does besides drain the ball and award very little in the way of points for being the runner-up of center ball drains on the table, and that's only because you're not going to shoot at the captive ball as often as you're going to shoot at the center ball lock. So this target does not get as many chances to fuck you over. And I'm pretty sure it's really only there for that one and only purpose. And that's because I don't even think I've seen this particular target listed in the rule set of the table. This seemingly simplistic table is one of increasing complexity that really speaks to the gamer in me. I love Metroidvanias, and those games are as much about exploration and figuring out how to apply your skill set to find new routes and secret areas, as the game starts off with a relatively low difficulty to ease the player in and grows in complexity as the game progresses, and that's exactly how I would describe Earthshaker, which is a game that actually has kind of a pseudo-leveling system in the form of the progressive capture ball reward target that becomes easier to obtain the more times you visit the shelter, and instead of rewarding levels, it rewards a very simple multi-ball worth 1,000,000 points. And when you're building up captured ball prizes, you're also collecting miles and fault trips, which can build up some massive end-of-play rewards. And on top of that, the bonus multiplier on this table is controlled by advancing the table, because they are awarded from the multi-balls. And while I'm going to have to review my footage to see if the quick multi-ball applies to this, I think it actually does, because I was racking up extra ball after extra ball after extra ball in my big game. I got so many that I actually lost count, but I believe there is a maximum of 9 extra balls allowed in the rule set for the table, which is absolutely insane. And the reason why I'm still on ball 1 when I start my recording, I believe this is actually my 3rd ball 1 by the time I realize I'm about to decimate my personal best on this table and start filming. Other than all of that, there's the standard 2 flipper, 2 slingshot setup with a non-standard peg in the middle that takes some real getting used to, and exactly 0 outlane or drain protection, so figuring out the safer shots on this table is absolutely mandatory. And I still haven't tried too many exotic shots, but I'm thinking that I might be able to combo Zone 5 into a roll down, bounce over onto the right flipper, or I might be able to do some wicked ass backhand shots into that captive ball target safely. The captive ball is listed as a sucker shot, and it is a very dangerous target from the left flipper. But it all goes back to that Metroidvania mindset and figuring out unique pathing using the tools at my disposal. And I'm betting the different momentum and angle from a backhand might take the bite out of this really evil shot. I hit it once from the left flipper while trying to do a post pass, but I haven't been able to replicate that shot a second time. Wow, this has been a pretty long script for what I thought was a pretty simplistic table at first. I was probably fooled by all the kindergarten crayon primary colors on display and loud noises, but this ain't no kid's table. I can see why it's such a beloved table now, and friend of the channel Nuclear Black keeps encouraging me to research table designers, and before I've talked about Python Angelou when I mentioned Bride of Pinball, and I've talked about Steve Ritchie when I discussed Black Knight 2000. So who made Earthshaker? Oh, I know that name, it's Pat Lawler. He also made Bonsai Run? Wow, I should have looked him up during the last table review. I wonder what else he's made. Oh god, that sick son of a bitch. He made Funhouse. The pinball table about the murder puppet with a basement full of bodies, I'm assuming? This little fucker is creepier than Chucky, the immortal voodoo killer doll. And I've seen Chucky do some really twisted shit, man. But I don't know what Rudy is capable of, and that's why he's so terrifying. And his voice is also very, very disturbing, and better not be Steve Ritchie again of Mortal Kombat fame. Oh, okay, it's not. It's Ed Boon of Mortal Kombat fame, and you've inevitably heard his voice already, because he's the guy who yells, "Get over here!" Yeah, he's Scorpion, a literal skeleton made of fire who resides in hell and is still not as scary as that godforsaken puppet head. Oh god. When do I have to review that? Oh, thank Christ. It's not until Williams Pack 6, which is probably the last pack I'll finish because I already did a video on Bride of Pinball. So I have a decent reason to avoid Pack 6 a little longer, and Pack 6 has Space Station 2. Oh god, what did I do to deserve this? Okay, I'm going to move back on to the Williams Pack 1 collection review and guides, which I have been promising for so long now. The whole thing is a whole process, and I'm getting better at producing videos, just like I'm getting better at pinball. And I'm going to showcase that by showing more clips from my very first encounter with Earthshaker about 2 weeks ago. You've been watching my second best game, and I'll be moving into my personal best game at the end, which I started recording at about the same score as my second best game. And remember, the footage you've been watching, I shot the day I finished the Bonsai Run Guide and a day before I started writing the script. And as I write this, the tables have been out for only 2 weeks, and I spent the majority of that time making a 2.5 hour long video recommending 100 games, some of which are pinball, so please check that out. I'm pretty proud of that video. I think it might be some of my best work to date. And I suddenly got really good at Earthshaker while I was typing out this script. I want to thank my viewers, my subscribers, my channel members, and all of you whose support as sponsors have allowed me to buy every table on Pinball FX and made it possible to hit my 1,000 subscriber milestone on Christmas Day, no less. This is a channel of the people, by the people, and for the people, and I am your host, the many-talented Mr. Jefferson. Now watch how bad I sucked at Earthshaker on day 1 before I get too full of myself. Toodles!
So I've played this exactly once. Didn't do terribly good. It looks like I need to chase the lights. I have no idea really what I'm supposed to do. Besides not, like, drain. You know, like that. Oh, this one's got the pin in the middle. There's a pin in the middle. Ugh! Alright, rank 150. This just came out, so like, all the really good players are probably still at work. Just a bit. The colors, too. Red and Ted. Well, I haven't played Taxi. I think that's one of the other ones people thought might have been coming to Pinball FX. Or wanted to. God, there's a pin there, I need to remember that. Space Cadet. Get out of here with that Space Cadet shit. Alright, so what the hell? Oh, I have to hit that rollover, I guess? Oh, that's how you do that. Ooh, almost hit the target. Alright, I need to get that road. It's not going. Oh, that's not what I meant to hit. so it wants me to hit that. Okay, okay. I got a table award. But I barely played. I did absolutely nothing with the multi-ball, but I got Seek Shelter. Oh! This is Whirlwind. I have no idea what I'm supposed to shoot. Okay, so I got a table award today. On ball 1. Quick multi-ball. Alright, so that's not what that green arrow's pointing at. Oh, okay, it's up that, the cop lane or whatever. Alright, that works. I'm trying to hit those blue arrows, though. It looks like I gotta do that ramp like 3 times from the look of the arrows. But, like, back to back. Oh, I got it. Okay. Damn it! Oh shit! Well, I didn't even get a last ball. Come on. That didn't count. Alright, where's that put me? 62. Nice. Alright, I am content at being fucking terrible at
I shall not be afraid of the terror in the night.
Oh, shit!